call to order the meeting of the Complaint Committee today on July 23, 2019, about 5:35. I am chair of this committee, Rodman Martin. To my left is member Matthew Cate. To my right is member Bruce Wolf, who is also the chair of the full task force. Just as a reminder before we get started, if you have cell phones, just try to silence them out of courtesy for the people who will be talking later about their matters. As I think some of you are aware, this is a complaint committee meeting. It's not the full task force. So we come today here to talk about your initial issues with the Sunshine Ordinance, what issues you're having obtaining documents or getting into meetings, and then we'll decide to refer it or not to the full task force, which meets once a month, usually at the start of the month, first Wednesday about. So, I think we have 4 matters today. We try to move through these fairly efficiently, but anyway. So do a call to order.
Roll call.
Yes, please.
Matthew Cate.
Present.
Matthew Cate present. Bruce Wolf.
Present.
Bruce Wolf present. Chair Martin.
Present.
Chair Martin present. We have a quorum. Item number 2.
Are there any agenda changes?
No agenda changes that I'm aware of.
Okay. And item number 2 is
Public comment.
public comment.
You want me to read it?
Sure.
Item number 2, public comment. Members of the public may address the committee on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda.
Seeing no public comment. We'll close public comment.
Call the next item.
The next item, please, Cheryl.
Item number 3, approval of the June 25th, 2019 Complaint Committee meeting minutes. Any changes?
I didn't see any.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, well, public comment on the motion to approve the minutes. Seeing none, public comment closed.
Read the next item, sir.
We need to vote.
I even need to vote on that.
Okay. Matthew Cate.
Aye.
Matthew Cate, aye. Bruce Wolf.
Aye.
Bruce Wolf, aye. Chair Martin.
Aye.
Chair Martin, aye. The motion to approve the minutes passes.
Next item.
Item number 4, file number 19060, complaint filed by Ashley Rhodes against the Arts Commission for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6721 by failing to respond to a request for public records in a timely and/or complete manner.
Okay, so is the complainant Ashley Rhodes here? Ashley Rhodes?
Is there any communications, Cheryl?
No, and she got a notice of appearance and the agenda packet that went out last week.
Any confirmation that she received it or anything?
No, I
It's
didn't
a
receive any
man. Okay,
notification.
thanks.
Or
I see
it's
Kate
me?
Patterson in the room,
Okay.
but I do not know why Ashley Rhodes is not here.
Okay. Is the respondent here? Okay. And you are? Okay. Hi, Ms. Patterson. How are you? Thanks for being on time. How do we want to deal with Mr. Rhodes not being here presently?
Rhodes?
Huh? It's Mr.
Oh, it's Mr.?
Yeah.
There is a requirement for both parties to show. It's up to you. You can continue it or pull it.
Do we have any recent communication, Cheryl, from
No,
Mr.
I haven't.
Rhodes?
Like I said, I sent out the notice of appearance, and I sent out the agenda packet. I didn't receive any confirmation, negative or positive, that she wouldn't be here, and so, that he wouldn't be here, pardon me. So I assumed that he would make an appearance.
Being that Mr. Rhodes is not here, Member Kate, do you have an opinion one way or the other?
How about we table it?
Okay.
And we'll move to some of the other items and see if, give them an opportunity to show up, at least for the meeting.
Okay.
And then we can deal with it later. Do you mind sticking around a little bit?
Like half an hour. Right.
Thank you.
Then, okay.
Do we take a vote on that?
Yeah, so I moved to table item 19060.
Any public comment on the motion?
We take that by acclamation.
Yeah. No objection? No? Nope. Motion is approved. Okay, next item.
Item number 5, file number 19025, complaint filed by Jamie Whitaker against the Homelessness and Supportive Housing for allegedly violating Administrative Code Sunshine Ordinance Section 6721 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and/or complete manner.
I have a question. Looking at the intake notes section 6725. On page 42.
That was my error.
Is it 21 or 25?
I thought it was 21.
Okay, so it's 25, and no matter. That's okay.
Okay, so is the complainant here? Is that Jamie Whitaker? Yes. Thank you very much. And is the respondent here? Yes. Okay, and you are? Abigail Stewart-Kahn with HSH. Okay, thank you, Abigail. And we'll first hear from the complainant. Can come forward. We'll give you 5 minutes.
And please speak into the microphone. Thank you.
Yeah, the microphone's input. There you go.
Good evening. My name's Jamie Whitaker. I'm a resident in the Rincon Hill neighborhood. Just to review the reason for my complaint, I emailed hshsunshine@sfgov.org on March 20th, 2019 at 6:10 a.m. I very pleasantly received a response 4 hours later from Caitlin, responding from hshsunshine@sfgov.org at 10:04 a.m. the same day. Caitlin indicated I'd receive a response in 10 business days or April 3rd. As of April 7th at 7:12 p.m., that's when I sent a complaint filing to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force because, as past April 3rd, obviously, the 10 days, the expectation set, and had not received response to my inquiry. I guess the main gist of why I'm here, I'm curious to know what the process is, just to learn. And I'd also like to know what the department has or will do to comply with the Sunshine Ordinance for constituents requesting information, what has been or will be the Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing's corrective action. I think it just always helps to remind folks that work in this building and the departments that if you set an expectation, stick to it. The people are your boss, ultimately, the citizens, and you erode confidence in government in general by not sticking to those expectations. Thank you.
Thank you. And what's your last name again? Stewart-Kahn. Ms. Stewart-Kahn, you can come forward. And you'll have 5 minutes as well. Michelle, thank you.
Good evening. I'm joined here by Hank Heckel from the mayor's office, who was in a coordination capacity around some of these sunshine requests. On March 20th, Mr. Whitaker sent a sunshine request to our sunshine box, and we acknowledged receipt that day and began to work on response. I do want to acknowledge that HSH should have asked for an extension on April 3rd, but due to staff departure, invoked that extension on the 9th, but continued to provide documents within the standard 14-day extension period. The extension was needed to coordinate with other departments. We then proceeded to produce many volumes of documents for Mr. Whitaker, totaling 1,260 pages. The backdrop of all of this, all of these requests related to the Embarcadero Safe Navigation Center was of the departure of 3 staff members who previously touched our Sunshine request process for opportunities elsewhere in city government. HSH was working to fill these positions as quickly as possible while juggling the tremendous increase in public interest related to the Safe Navigation Center with staff who are already tasked fully on other work areas, including myself. HSH has since rehired 2 positions and is in the process of hiring a 3rd. These positions are not specifically designated only for Sunshine requests, but do add much-needed bandwidth in our external affairs team. On a related note, the Controller's Office issued a report on May 17, 2019, which determined that HSH lacked sufficient staffing in key areas compared to other city departments. One of these key gaps in our external affairs and public reporting, which oversees response to Sunshine requests. Responding to this gap, the mayor's budget includes an additional position of a PIO to oversee Sunshine requests, which are significant and understandably significant to our department. HSH looks forward to being more adequately staffed so that we can continue to prioritize our timely and complete responses to Sunshine requests, which we do take extremely seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and is there anyone in support of the complainant that wish to, not a party, but in support of the complainant that wish to speak at this point?
So the phrase is, are any persons to provide any facts or evidence on behalf of the complainant, the petitioner? And then seeing none, are there any persons or witnesses to provide any facts or evidence on behalf of the respondent? And just for you note, that makes you party. 3, yeah.
Good evening, members of the task force. My name is Hank Heckel, and I'm the compliance officer for the Office of Mayor London and Breed. And I would like to offer some words in support of Ms. Stewart-Kahn's statements, and perhaps I can help to address any additional questions the committee may have. While this request was originally directed to HSH and the complaint is lodged against HSH, we in the mayor's office provided assistance to the department in responding to Mr. Whitaker. In particular, given the heightened interest in the proposed Safe Navigation Center at Seawall Lot 330 and the amount of other requests we were receiving relating to this project during the spring months, we provided guidance and support to HSH in responding to Mr. Whitaker and assisted in providing the responsive documents. We in the mayor's office echo HSH's comments that we are sensitive to Mr. Whitaker's concern regarding the timeliness of the production of documents and fully understand the duty of departments to completely respond to records requests with all practicable speed. We submit that HSH has made best efforts to comply with Mr. Whitaker's request here and have substantively responded and provided the documents. All of the documents that Mr. Whitaker requested, and accordingly there should be no violation of the Sunshine Ordinance. As Ms. Stewart-Kahn noted, there were hundreds of documents produced overall, totaling over 1,260 pages. We provided 7 productions overall to Mr. Whitaker, beginning within the extended time period that Ms. Stewart-Kahn noted. And as to the timeliness of the response, we would just reiterate the comments regarding the resources and staffing issues experienced by HSH, particularly during this time when it was dealing with the heightened public interest and attention to the proposed homeless navigation center at the Seawall Lot 330 site. That's not an excuse, but just by way of explanation. And it's an additional reason why we got involved in the mayor's office to assist. And I would just note that we went beyond just the scope of the request for documents from HSH. We provided documents from the mayor's office and also from the port relating to this request. And just if I could briefly say, Mr. Whitaker noted that he mentioned some kind of corrective action. I would just note that we believe the request has been fulfilled, so we don't know what further remedies appropriate, if any.
Thank you. Okay, so Mr. Whitaker, I have a few questions for you. You don't mind coming back up here? So I know that, and I think you said this in your opening remarks, is that part of this is just finding out how this works, and you did a sunshine request, and I on first blush, I think you're correct in that they didn't get back to you within the time frame they said, nor within the 10 days. But are you getting documents now? Are they responding to you? Are they sending stuff as it becomes available?
I have received several documents from Mr. Heckel, the mayor's office, but the complaints about setting expectation,
Right.
meeting the expectation, being within the Sunshine Ordinance guidelines. Otherwise, why legislate anything if it's just
Correct.
if we're just freewheeling doing what we want?
Correct.
That's not what the citizens expect, I don't believe.
But I just want to make sure they're being responsive now.
Oh yes, I am.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. I mean, did you contact them on St. Patrick's Day or the 19th?
March
Curious, 'cause I
20th
think-
was the original email.
March 20? Okay.
I think that was middle of the week.
Okay. And then they got back to you right away saying 10 days, and then they didn't get back to you
Yeah.
for more than 10 days.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Does anyone else have any?
Yeah. So, Mr. Whitaker, when you made the request, was it to be an immediate disclosure request or just standard request?
It was a standard
Standard
request.
Okay, so let the intake form be adjusted so it's not 6725, it's 6721. Okay, because it says 25. It's it's probably just a typo. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Khan? So you testified that you invoked a 14-day extension.
Correct.
Where-
HSH did.
Right. So where did you learn about a 14-day extension?
In that we're relying on the good governance guide.
Okay. Did you not check the ordinance, the law itself, to see what the rules are?
That is the guidance given to the department by our city attorney.
Right, but the law is what guides you, not a set of guidelines that may be incorrect, and they are. The ordinance under 6721 is a 10-day extension. Actually, it's just 10 days for a regular request. So it's not even an extension. You can invoke, generally when things are so voluminous, and they would be done on an incremental rolling basis.
Right.
Generally, those things are reserved more for an IDR, but it's usually within coordination with the requester. So I just wanted you to have some knowledge of that is kind of one of our sticking points with the Good Government Guide, because they generally don't write it or ask us for input or an opinion on it. So, so the ordinance is actually your best go-to first, and to double check, because in the Good Government Guide should tell you what section that refers to. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you. So do you feel that you've provided him with all the records?
Yes.
There's no other records that you can provide? I heard what Mr. Heckler had to say. There's nothing more that you feel that you're done providing?
Yes,
with
our records
everything?
reflect that this request is complete.
Okay, very good. And I just want to note, I appreciate that there may have been some staffing issues, but it is absolutely the responsibility, actually not of you, but of your department head to make sure that there's adequate staffing. And if not, then should be provided or shared with some other department if needed. So that's So I just wanted to mention that while I appreciate that there may be a staffing shortage in this way, especially for maybe such a voluminous request, it really is incumbent upon your department head, which here would be the mayor, as being head of the executive branch, to provide that. The ordinance actually requires that.
Requires the mayor as opposed to our director?
It's actually both, but it's actually both. I mean, the way the ordinance is written, that the mayor is to make sure for the executive branch that there's enough adequate staff.
Yeah, and I just, on that note, I really want to thank the mayor's office for their support. As soon as we noted the staffing gaps, Mr. Heckel was reprioritized to support this work. This is in the context of, I'd have to check my records, but multiple sunshine requests in a very short time period, which just happened to coincide with an unfortunate staffing gap. And I agree that that's not acceptable. It's just the context that we're providing. And as soon as we had the appropriate staffing, and we're continuing to develop that staffing because we take this so seriously, we've been able to respond to all of the rest of our sunshine requests in the correct time frame.
Yeah, this is just a canary in the coal mine kind of thing, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay, we're going to just take a break for a minute while our administrator gets a correction. And use the trackpad on the instead. You unplug the mouse, the trackpad should work. Just automatically work. No? May have to reboot it. Well, we need to continue. I would suggest rebooting it. It should save what you've been working on. No. Oh yeah, Ctrl Alt Delete. There now the mouse is working. So say cancel.
Thanks for your patience. during
Absolutely.
our
We all have
personnel.
technology problems.
Technical difficulty.
Why don't you continue? I'll go.
Okay. I think Member Cade was going to
Yeah, I just had a couple questions. It sounds like this was not just in the context of this this complaint was in the context of a lot of other requests coming in for similar subject matter. Am I picking that up correctly?
From around the same proposed site, yes.
And I guess what I'm trying to get at, just because there was another case that we've come across where there was a large number of documents and talking about staffing and resources available to address, very large number of records requests kind of at once within a department. And I'm just trying to get a sense of how many people in your office are able to kind of dedicate how much, how many people are focused on responding to records requests, and kind of how many hours or minutes a day a particular request might get.
Sure. So I'll talk about what was happening at the time and then what we're moving towards. So two things happened at the same time. We, along with the mayor's office, have a proposal for a new site for a safe navigation center at the Embarcadero, which, if you're following the context in San Francisco, created tremendous public interest. The two people, so HSH was originally staffed to have one person oversee that work area in addition to significant other work areas, and one other person who could do that as a backup. those, and then a third administrative person who understood and could sort of make the trains run. All three of those people left within a month of each other for other opportunities in the city at the same moment that this was happening. And so it was really a storm. Sure. I was hired by the department to work on entirely separate work area, and I took this on quite quickly in order to adequately respond to your point, Mr. Wolf, around the director understanding how important it was to maintain our responsiveness to this. And we had another colleague who had some additional time who was supporting me. That's Caitlin Motley, who's noted there. She also left within this time period, and so. And again, this is they all left for four entirely different reasons, promotions within the city, and these things do happen. Unfortunately, they happened all at the same time period. So at that moment, we were very poorly staffed. The controller's office report notes even based on the staffing at full capacity, we were woefully inadequately staffed around our public inquiry and external affairs work. And so even if those folks had stayed on, we are considered, compared to our benchmark departments by the controller's office, to have had low resources. And so that is why the mayor's budget has an additional position in it. So with the hiring of, we filled 2 of them. We are hiring 1 more in the process now. Should the mayor's budget be approved in the next month, we will move to hire the last person, and we feel we will be better prepared to respond.
Will the staffing level come up to the level that the controller's office recommended for the?
Not fully.
How? What's the short?
I'd have to check the report, and it's not quite that specific. And the controller's office report does acknowledge that it's difficult to benchmark our department against others. We're a relatively small department, but with incredible public focus, and so it's hard to compare us to equivalent. There isn't an equivalent department to compare us to. So they were doing their best with the data that they could pull to try to make some recommendations, not only in this area, but in other areas like contracts and other things. And as you are likely aware, the department is relatively new. And so this is a really opportune moment to evaluate the adequacy of our staffing. And we're really grateful to the mayor's office for taking that controller's recommendation and providing, at least proposing more additional resources.
Thanks. Go ahead.
I have a question for Mr. Whitaker. So our job here today is to make sure that we have a complete file that the full task force can then be able to move forward without hesitation. So I wanted to ask, have you received all the responsive documents that you were expecting at this point in time?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay. And when exactly did the HSH department, when did they contact you after you sent in the request?
I don't know exactly. I believe it may have been Mr. Heckle that sent the first batch of information to me. I
see. So
I don't remember what date that was.
But it wasn't in March.
No, it wasn't in March.
It was. So it looks like. Wait, I think I got it here.
Sounds like April 15th, possibly.
No, it's sooner than that. April 9th. Oh no, that's you. You were supposed to April 9th. Okay, and then April 10th from yourself, Ms. Stewart-Kahn. At 1:34 p.m. Looking on page 59.
So my records reflect that we invoked the extension on the 9th and that we began providing the first volume of responsive documents on the 15th.
Yes, I see that.
Subsequent volumes provided 5
Right.
different days, completing on April 22nd.
Right. So it's in a thread all together.
I know,
So it's hard to delineate.
I agree.
I got it. Right. So.
What was that date you completed it?
April 9th.
So we responded on March 20th, acknowledging the request.
Okay.
And then the next point of contact is the 9th.
Okay. So so this is where the the confusion around 6721 and 6725 is. In your, what made you think that this was immediate disclosure request? Your response states Government Code 6253C and San Francisco Admin Code 6725B.
I would have to check. I don't remember us. Is that from Caitlin Motley?
No, it's from you.
Oh, I think I'm just.
Because it's, as per Mr. Whitaker's testimony and on his original request on page 61, there's nothing in there that asks for an immediate disclosure
Correct.
request.
We were not responding. I do not think I was responding this as an IDR.
Okay.
But I may have noted the wrong code.
Okay.
If that's what you're advising me.
Yeah, that's
Okay, thank
that's
you.
what I am. Because it'd be a whole different set of, and I think there is some the opening intake page says 6725.
Okay.
And I think there may have been
That may be where
some
that pulls from.
confusion around
Okay.
around all that. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Okay. Yeah, I actually don't have anything else to ask you right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh,
So I move to find the records are public and that's within our jurisdiction, and to forward this to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force for hearing.
seconded.
Public comment.
Any public? Yeah, Kate seconds. Any public comment on the motion? Not seen any public comment. Please take roll.
Member Wolf?
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. Member Kate?
Aye.
Member Kate, aye. Chair Martin?
Aye.
Chair Martin, aye. The motion passes.
I'd like to thank the parties for being here today. Again, all this does is refers it to the full task force, and you will get notice of when that will be meeting. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Whitaker.
The first one.
Oh yeah, the first item we had, you're kindly waiting, is Mr. Rhodes here yet or present? He's not here. It's now 6:07. He was aware that the complaint committee meets at 5:30.
So I just let it roll to the end of the meeting, and then we'll decide how to dispense with it at the end of the meeting.
Do we want?
Oh, for Ms.
Yeah, I
Patterson.
don't want. That's not.
Well, okay. Got it.
If this is where I think if he didn't provide any notice, he wasn't
I
going to
didn't
be
get any
here.
notification.
We can reset him or something like that. I don't want to make people waste their time.
Continue?
Agree. I'll do a motion to continue.
I'll second it.
Any public comment on the motion to continue? Seeing none. Please take roll.
Thank you for coming, Ms.
Yeah.
Patterson.
Thank you for waiting.
Chair Martin?
Aye.
Chair Martin, aye. Member Wolf?
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. Member Kate?
Aye.
Member Kate, aye. The motion continue passes.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item, item number 6, file number 19058, complaint filed by Robert M. Smith against the Fine Arts Museums of San Francisco for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6725 by failing to respond to an immediate disclosure request in a timely and/or complete manner. The complainant and the respondent are both present.
Okay. Thank you. Hello, Mr. Smith. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Fortunately, the machine,
How shocking.
no, in the past it's worked.
There it is. Okay.
That's fine. Yeah, oh, yeah, it's great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So we'll put you on your 5 minutes as soon as, and we'll get started.
Is this microphone okay?
It should be, yeah,
That's
just
the
make sure you
microphone
speak
to
into
use.
it.
Yes.
Thank
You
you very
ready?
much. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening. You can see what's happening here. The museum said they'll produce additional responsive records as soon as reasonably possible. It's yellow highlighted. I wrote back saying, well,
Gotta focus it. It's okay.
how do you
Should
do that?
autofocus,
I don't know
actually.
how you focus it.
I don't know.
Sorry.
It's supposed to autofocus, but it's.
I thought this would speed things up.
That's all right.
I can just read them if you like.
Hold on.
It goes this way.
Here, just do it like this.
Oh, you did it.
Oh, yeah, put the, okay, good.
Bruce, you're my technical guru.
And we'll restart you, Mr. Smith. Okay?
So will the next one just go in?
Yeah, if it doesn't, then you see this button that says autofocus.
Right.
Just turn it off and then turn it back on,
boot.
and then it'll
Okay.
do it.
Can we restart his time? There you go. Okay.
All right, thank you. So I wrote back saying, well,
Oh, there it is.
see, I shouldn't touch this.
There you go.
Hit
Almost.
the auto button, yeah, autofocus, turn it off and turn it on. There you go.
Reasonably possible, as you and your attorneys know, isn't the standard. Once again, it appears you're violating the law. If you have a contrary view, please advise me. They didn't advise me about anything. So their standard is nothing relating to the law. They want to do it when they want to do it, and this is a very narrow inquiry. In terms of the stuff they did send me, you'll notice, for example, here, they, in these minutes, a lot of this stuff is online on their website anyway. Look at item Roman 7, proposed slate of officers, president, vice president, chair. It's all blank or blanked out. So there's a more important issue, really, which I feel obliged to call to your attention than just this. I realized that they've been saying they're withholding records, and they list a catch-all bucket of reasons: privacy, government code this, that, admin code this, that, charter, whatever. They don't tell you what records they're withholding, what documents they're not providing in response to the request. It's completely unknown, nor is there any linkage between any of these asserted privileges and any particular document, since you don't know what documents they're talking about at all. So this puts San Franciscans in a very odd circumstance. Here we have a government agency which says, we're not going to give you the documents, and we're not going to tell you what the documents are that we're not giving you. Here's a battery of reasons, and one or another of them may fall into one of these reasons. It is essentially, and I don't think I exaggerate, the end of democracy when a government institution can simply say, we're not going to provide documents and we're not going to tell you which documents we're withholding. It's completely the reverse of what this entire system is about, and it's shocking. Or at least it's shocking to me, and I'm sure it'd be shocking to any journalist. And I say this, and then I say, you're being advised on these matters by the San Francisco city attorney, which makes the whole thing even more bizarre, because that's not anybody's view of the law that I can imagine. And they wrote back and said, the museums have actually been advised by the city attorney's office that an index for withheld records is not required. So now we have the city attorney of San Francisco telling city departments in San Francisco that they are free to withhold documents from the public when they are requested and not tell the public what documents they're withholding. It's remarkable. In any event, turning back to the first part of this, I'm in this position where I filed what I guess you call an IDR. They asked for an extension to consult with the city attorney's, or they took an extension to consult with the city attorney's office. Eventually, I got these documents, many of which were available on the website anyway. This is a very narrow request. I stress that. And now I'm in a circumstance where they have asserted that they have no deadline and they have no duty to tell me what it is they're withholding. Thank you.
Thank you. Now somebody asks if they're in support, or do I give that? Okay. Is there anyone in support of the complainant with facts or evidence? Seeing none, respondent. Please state your name for the record.
Hello.
Hi.
Melissa Powers.
Hey, Ms. Powers, how are you?
I'm great. Well, first,
Well, let's give you the 5 minutes first.
okay.
Oh, she has it on. Okay, perfect.
I'm not going to make this the center of this moment because it's not tonight's thing, but I would like to just point out, I don't know if you can see it, but on that same email that Mr. Smith showed you, the next line that he did not show is that I then said to him, however, Famous F is providing you such for your 2 orders, and attached are 2 indexes of all withheld documents. And I have it on my phone if you need to see it. But I think, furthermore, I think Mr. Smith helps us in our point here is that we're doing the best we can with the resources that we have. And when we got a new complaint or a new request from Mr. Smith, we did invoke an extension. It was an IDR. We consulted with the city attorney's office on the day of what would have been the due date of our extension, and we agreed on that date. I did inform him that we were still conducting a review. And as far as, whether or not that verbiage is legally sufficient to Mr. Smith, I do think that I see that language in 67.25D, where it actually says that you can, as soon as reasonably possible on an incremental basis. And, he gave us this deadline, but we, to the best that we can, we know that you give us the deadlines. I can't follow every deadline that Mr. Smith likes to impose on me. The documents that he showed that he believes is redacted, that was actually an agenda, and that actually is the way the document reads. There was no redaction. We did provide him 7 agendas that are not agendas and minutes for meetings that are not have not been public. So in terms of the fact that it is limited in scope, and he came back and said, well, this is all public, we will conduct more of an email search. These are our hard copy documents. We're doing the best we can with our time, but if we're going to keep running into that this isn't the information isn't good enough for Mr. Smith. I mean, we have what we have. I mean, the agendas and the meetings are just not that exciting, I guess. I mean, the part of the whole point was that they were reviewing when terms were expiring, and that's what that agenda was. So if the request is any and all documents relating to her term expiring, I'm going to give her an agenda that talks about term expirings, and that's what we did. So in terms of whether or not I just sat here through the last hearing, and my guess is this will get referred to the task force, but we are going to do what we can, conduct a review for any further documents, and we have another hearing with Mr. Smith in August for those 2 orders. We hope that will be the end of that. And in the interim, we will turn our attention to this and to make sure that we have buttoned it up and given him what's the identified responsive documents. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
And by the way, Cheryl was also copied in my email with the indexes.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in support of respondent with facts or evidence? Okay, seeing none.
I have a question, Ms. Powers. So there's no page number. It's in Appendix A for this. It's okay.
It's okay.
I was just saying,
For the agenda.
I'm just announcing for the public, there's no page number here, but I'm looking on the. Okay, so it's just for the public's prerogative. It's after page 131. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Are you into the
6,
second page of our documents?
7. Yes. So I'm looking at the May 15th confidential meeting notes.
Yep.
First of all, so the minutes of a policy body is within our jurisdiction, and it's within the Brown Act. So I wanted to ask first, why does it state confidential?
Well, and Ms. Bourne's here in case she wants to jump in. Part of what's going on is we are reviewing some of the governance structure, and so we made these minutes available because they were requested. We are looking at other matters adjacent to this in terms of the future of how certain executive committee meetings are going to be held. This was the nominating committee of another board, but because of certain structures and certain ways things are conducted, those meetings in the past have been held in private, but we still provided those minutes. So that's, I understand where you're going with this question, and we understand, and we are dealing with that.
Okay. It's a little troublesome to see confidential meeting notes for anything for a public body unless it was a closed session that was.
Well, this was for, this was not a meeting under FAMSF, but because of the way we are treating this committee, we are providing these minutes.
Well, I don't understand. Well, first of all, there's no, it says nominating committee, board of trustees. Board of trustees of what?
This is the nominating committee for the Board of Trustees, but it is the Corporation of the Fine Arts Museums nominating committee.
Okay.
So, but we are looking at that issue, and
Okay.
we, and as the
Okay.
the governance and the larger issue of this issue is being looked at, but we certainly didn't say, what we did not say was, oh, well, we treated this as private, or this committee treated it as private. We provided the minutes. We recognized that, and we provided the minutes.
Do you have any more right now?
I was just going to ask, in this section of the minutes, section 8, where, as Mr. Smith had pointed out, the proposed slate of officers, I mean, it gives the positions, but there's no names.
No, I mean, that is literally the way it is.
So is that
The
when they
way
were
what
saying,
is, though.
is that when they were saying, listen, the president will be from FAMSF, the vice president will be from FAMSF, the other 4 people will be from COFAM? Is that essentially what it's saying? There's nothing blacked out.
No, there's nothing blacked out. They probably spoke to it, and the notes only reflect, I guess, the list. I wasn't in the meeting.
The way I look at it is they're dividing it at the committee up.
So, wait a second, are you saying that this is, they're considering the makeup?
Yeah, like who's,
What seats would be held by what seats?
yeah. That's what it looks like to me.
Right,
I
like
mean, but
they're
it's-
voting to present the
let's-
following, like this will be the slate that will be presented at the board, and then they listed the positions that are going to be listed, but there's nothing redacted. This is it.
Well, so here's the problem, the word slate. Okay, in general parlance for elections and things like that, or a slate for any kind of elections, a slate is usually a group of people, actual names of people. that are put forward as a group for election. Now, that's what I think Mr. Smith is trying to ascertain, and I would agree with him based upon the way this is stated. This is not a slate. If you're just determining the makeup of, and it says for the officers, like which seats would be assigned for a particular officership, then that's not necessarily a slate. That is a structure.
Okay, I didn't make this, so perhaps it's not articulated correctly.
Okay.
But his request was dealing specifically with the stepping down of Mrs. Wilsey.
But
So
that's not what I'm asking about. So we may get to that in a moment, okay? What I'm asking about is just this part, because he brought that up as a question. Looking at it, it says proposed slate of officers. I would expect to see a list of names for those positions.
I can't, I didn't make this, I
Okay.
don't know.
Okay, well, who knows about this? I mean, that's the purpose of this and purpose of the ordinance, to have people show up that know about this. Sure. And state your name for the record, please.
My name is Megan Bourne.
Thank you. And your position?
I am the Chief of Staff and the Secretary to the Board of Trustees.
Okay. Of which organization?
I work for the Corporation of the Fine Arts Museums. I am the Secretary for both the Fine Arts Museums of San Francisco City Agency Board and for the COFAM Board.
Thank you.
And that's one of our catch-22s, is we don't have city staff to serve as a secretary or as a public records.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's continue with my question here. So on this, on these meeting notes, was the intent of number 8 to be a slate of officers that are named people, named individuals for each one of those positions? Or was this the creation of a new body and to assign certain seats to certain officer positions?
It was not the creation of a new body. Looking at it now, it was a clumsily written indication that the nominating, that the positions that needed to be filled were the president of FAMSF and the vice president of FAMSF, and the chair, vice chair, and treasurer of COFAM. So it was not creating any new positions. It was identifying that the terms for those, the incumbents in those positions were expiring and needed to be refilled.
Oh, wait a minute. So, all right, so now I'm a little confused. So if these positions already exist and have existed
Yes.
since the Board of Trustees was created?
Yes.
Okay, so,
Not in the case of COFAM, but in the case of FAM, yes.
well, what is this group then? These are officers that are making up both FAM and COFAM.
Right. The COFAM bylaws were amended in 2016 to change position titles and add vice chairs.
So what did the committee vote on? Did the committee vote on adding these 2 vice chairs?
No, that had already happened.
Okay.
So the committee was discussing who to nominate to fill these positions that would be vacant as of the June board meeting, because the terms were expiring.
And what was the vote about? It says a vote to present the following slate for the June 5th FAMSF and COFAM board agendas.
They did not come to they continued discussing the candidates for those positions after the meeting, so they did not settle on the nominees at that meeting.
So they were discussing things after the meeting was adjourned?
Yes, correct.
Okay, that's a bit problematic, especially if you're deemed any kind of public body to have a meeting not in the public, not doing the business in public view, especially of elections of your board. We're going to probably, at the task force level, we're probably going to need some information about that. I'm probably going to ask that you have some documentation reflecting this particular item, because what Ms. Powers said and now what you said are now not in alignment. So I'm a little concerned about what, and I'm a little concerned about, this is the Board of Trustees that oversees what? The whole Fine Arts Museums of San Francisco? I mean, it's like, what is
There are
this?
3 boards involved around the Fine Arts Museums of San Francisco.
Okay.
There's FAMSF, which is a charitable trust department.
Are they also called the Board of Trustees?
Yes.
And for each of those 3 entities, are their boards each called Board of Trustees?
Yes.
Okay. So for this one, which Board of Trustees was these meeting notes for? Because it just says nominating committee, Board of Trustees, with a date and a place and call to order.
I'm sorry,
Like Catherine Lassiter, who's the chair, she's the chair of which entity on which Board of Trustees?
See that it looks like
Right.
on the back,
It's a- so this-
page 2, it says COFAM at the top on the back page. I don't
Yep.
know if that's a holdover from another Board of Trustees, but
It's
on the top left of page 2, it suggests
The nominating
COFAM.
committee is a COFAM committee.
Okay, and so then the context of these meeting notes is for the Board of Trustees for COFAM?
For COFAM and for FAM. It's, and as Melissa,
So does this same Board of Trustees oversees 2 different entities?
the COFAM nominating committee nominates trustees for both the COFAM board and for the Fine Arts Board.
Okay.
And that's the way the bylaws are written, which, as Melissa said, we are looking at that because it's.
Okay, so here's the thing. I'm not going to belabor this because most of this discussion should happen at the task force. Based upon these minutes, I'd like members. I'd like for I don't know which entity to ask. All 3, whoever organizes all of this.
Right, Member Both. I think that's one of the problematic points is, as Mr. Smith can attest, and Ms. Powers as well, if there's an issue between COFAM and FAMSF.
But just for this particular item, I think based upon what I'm hearing in testimony, is that there was a discussion about creating a slate for each one of these positions from each of these 2 entities, and that by the end of the meeting, they had not decided what that is. First of all, it's not even reflected in these meeting notes that it would be continued or tabled or, whatever the action or procedure was going to be. And now to hear in testimony that they had potentially been discussing this item that was on their agenda outside of a beyond adjournment of the meeting. It's very problematic for me. So I would like for them to produce what exactly was happening here. and that would make a correction to these minutes, essentially. But we also have to also determine under whether and I'm not sure if we have, I don't recall whether we have figured out this conundrum between these three entities yet or not, as to whether COFAM, which is not a city entity but has a contract with the city, is applicable under 12L. FAM SF is absolutely a city agency, city department, absolutely primary to Sunshine Task Force, Sunshine Ordinance. But the question is I'm not sure what I'm reading here as far as confidential meeting notes and what this body is, who this body is.
I mean, just from looking, to me, the headers kind of gives a hint. It says COFAM at the top, which means, to me, they think they're in the sphere of COFAM, not FAMSF. I'm not saying it's right.
Yeah, my only concern is if the president, vice president, chair, and the two vice chairs and the treasurer, this grouping of people, this board of trustees, is that the COFAM board? Is that the FAM-SF board, or is that the foundation board?
Well, I think the fact that we can't tell is the problem.
Right.
So,
so
not only that, but I think if they're talking about president for FAMSF and vice president for FAMSF within confidential meeting notes under the COFAM meeting, that's problematic. Which I think you guys know.
Can I just inject?
Sure.
Right. And just to take a step back, and we understand the concerns, Mr. Wolf. I think this is looking back, and it isn't until like current time that they're reviewing how this governance works in these meetings. So up until now, COFAM has had these meetings where privately. And so that's why you see the words confidential. It wasn't like an intention to violate the Brown Act or to have a secret meeting. That was how they were functioning. And then taking a look at, is this really a policy body, and do we need to change, starting with being transparent and saying, okay, maybe these meetings weren't held correctly. Maybe we need to look at that in the future, but we're going to give them meetings. So I don't want it to appear as we were at the time contemporaneous with us, trying to do something underhanded.
No, I'm not suggesting. I'm trying to get clarity here because we're now back to the original question of when Mr. Smith first brought his complaint to the task force, and we're having now subsequent complaints being forward, and we're still trying to answer this question, and I'm getting a little unnerved by that because we can't do justice on this.
Which question?
The question is who has oversight over the Fine Arts Museums of San Francisco that the people of City of San Francisco own? Who has that oversight? We have a planning department. Well, there's a planning commission that oversees that. We have a building inspection department. Well, the building inspection commission oversees that. We have a library. We have a library commission that oversees that. Who oversees FAM-SF? That's first and foremost, we need to have that answered. And we need to know the makeup of the people on those, how they are elected or appointed, and is that publicly made available? That's the first requirement, period, public agency part. Dealing with the corporation and dealing with the foundation, that's going to have to be the second question. So we first have to get the first question answered. And so I'll ask again, is this Board of Trustees that is being discussed in these minutes, is that the body that oversees the Fine Arts Museums of San Francisco?
No, they don't oversee the actual department.
The actual department, all the assets, all the artwork and the buildings and the operations, the infrastructure.
Yes. So COFAM does not oversee the Fine Arts Museums. The Fine Arts Museums of San Francisco is the city agency who is responsible for the buildings and for the art. COFAM is responsible for other aspects of the museum that are not funded by the city. I'm not saying it's a perfect,
No,
it's a
that's
very
okay.
perfect.
It happens all over the city, I get that.
Yeah.
You know, the question is the relationship, okay? But first and foremost, let's leave COFAM and the foundation out for a moment. I just want to focus on what I own, what he owns, what you own, what everybody in this room owns in the city.
That's the Fine
okay?
Arts Museums of
Fine
San
Arts
Francisco.
Museums of San Francisco. Is there a commission for that department?
It's a charitable trust department. So we're sort of considered in the body of commissions, but under the city charter, there are 4 charitable trusts.
Okay,
That's what we are,
okay.
what FAM is.
All right. I'm going to kind of I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole, okay, because to me, it feels like one of those. I'm going to try to do a little research myself, and I think we should ask our legal counsel to elaborate
I agree.
on the memorandum with regards to some of those questions.
Yeah, I just have one question, I guess, to focus in on this complaint. Are there any records or anything being withheld based on we've talked about the different,
Yeah.
No, so-
divisions or anything? Is anything being withheld for this particular complaint based on the issues we've discussed before?
No, nothing's being, we're going to do more of an electronic search now. We searched our hard drive, so we gave them the hard copies that we know. And to do a full search, we're going to do some search with nominating committee members in a relevant time period and see if there's anything else related to this. But these agendas are sort of the mechanism for getting a board, getting that, and we gave them in the very beginning the board agenda for the June 4th, which is when we had the election of the new president of the board. So, and if there's any other correspondence about it, but it isn't in terms of what there's going to be. I don't know how many emails about it, but I don't think there's going to be any really new information. It's just the fact that it led up to this election.
But in terms of whether it's COFAM or FAMSF,
No, and we
there's
understand-
in terms of who owns the emails.
No, I think in this case,
that's
no,
not
because
this case.
we recognize that in terms of the nominating committee being a policy body and looking at it, when we look at these emails, it's going to be about, does it fit the request? Not, is this, is this COFAM, is this FAM? Because it's going to be dealing with the nominating of the new president and the stepping down, whatever term you want to use for Mrs. Woolsey.
And that's what's at focus here, right? Is that's
Yes.
the current complaint is about
Yes.
Miss Woolsey.
Yes, so this is
stepping down. But-
triggering the whole larger discussion that
But
we
you
know that we've had with
You
the
do not
others.
anticipate a COFAM FAMSF
No.
debate.
No,
at
and as a
the-
matter of fact, I don't anticipate a large, I don't want to speak to number because I don't want to get down that.
Right.
But no, we're not getting involved in that situation. We're just going to look for what is responsive to his request, any and all matters dealing with, Mrs. Woolsey, blah, blah, blah. And we've done a search in our drives. These were the committee, these were the relevant meetings. Okay, here you go. These are the agendas. Here you go. Okay, was there anything else? That's why you see that one email that we gave them where it was the day of the board and they were confirming the language. I mean, it depends on how literal you want to get to the request.
All right, I saw the request. There's a lot that can be found in there that Mr. Smith's asking for, which he's entitled to see. But when you're citing attorney-client privilege or whatever's going on, is there any active, usually you have to give more of a response than that as to what's going on.
When are we citing attorney-client privilege?
I thought it was in there. As
No,
a
our
reason.
original, no, he was bringing up an email for the 2 other complaints that are not.
So
are-
what
are
is-
not-
Regarding time to consult with
Right, we
counsel.
consulted with counsel for this, and then I think he was showing an email of a previous document distribution we had given him for the other orders where we cited different reasons for withholding
So
documents.
Has he been responded to as this request goes? Has he received documents related to the stepping down?
Yes, he's received 11, about 10 or 11. He received originally the day when I first told him that we were going to either invoke somewhere between the very first time when he emailed, we gave him the agendas for that. We gave him an email from the director to the staff about it, and I think we gave him one other, we had 2 posted agendas. We gave him those 2 agendas and the email from the director. And then in the course of the time that, between then and now, we gave him 7 more documents, which are the documents that we're talking about tonight.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, just, and is it complete from your perspective, or there's still more documents you're still searching and
Well,
kind
I
of-
guess it, and I mean, for the sake of, trying to get along with each other, if there's not more that if he's not interested in emails where they're talking about, like, here's the language today, or here's whatever, then it's a matter of how much search we do. I mean, these are the substantive documents in terms of the mechanism in the meetings, but now we can look at emails where they're talking about it.
Is there anything being withheld for any?
No, because
section?
nothing's been identified to be withheld.
Okay.
At this point. We've done the search in the share, these are the documents we've given them, and if we do a more extensive electronic search, whether or not I'm going to find an email where, somebody emails the city attorney to say we have a question about the upcoming whatever, well, then that, of course, will be attorney-client, but we haven't identified that yet.
I have a question. This goes to just on the timeliness. So this is an immediate disclosure request. You did comply to respond by the end of the next business day. You invoked an extension. The extension is 10 days, not 14 days.
Well, we agreed on a date together, so.
No, I understand that. But
Right,
the law is 10 days. Okay. Did you provide any documents within the 10-day period?
No, but I responded to him that we were still conducting the review, and we were gathering these agendas. And I mean, it's a sea change in terms of if these meetings were private and looking at them, and so we then gave him those documents. But I mean, I'm not here to dispute that.
Okay.
We were
Okay.
late, but we're.
All right, it's just one of that's
We're doing
kind of
what we
what brings us here.
That's okay.
Give
I get
a
that.
girl a break.
One additional question, I guess, on just after the May 2018 COFAM minutes we were talking about earlier. There's some emails in our packet with some redactions, and I gather that some of them are.
Those are all private emails. Are you talking about the draft nominating talking points? Yes.
And I see that some of them have the names of the person, like Catherine and Jason. It looks like it's just the redaction of what I assume is a private email address.
Correct.
But there's another one, there's a couple on that same page where it looks like it's the full name.
No, for some of these, their spouse was identified, and we just redacted the name of the spouse, but we provided the name of the board member, but just redacted the name of the spouse because they're not board member. That's their name. I mean, he'd be getting Jason Moment and then his wife's name, but he has Jason Moment and he got his business email. And any other email that's actually redacted, like where you see that to line, that was a private email that was in the to line.
That's fine.
I have a question, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Ms. Powell.
Mr. Smith, I'm looking at your intake form because generally the way we operate here is based upon what exactly is described as the violation. You state here failure to provide records in compliance with the law. It's a pretty vague statement. Which law are we talking about? I mean, our jurisdiction is only the Sunshine Ordinance.
That's it.
Okay, but what is the violation?
Failure to provide documents, failure to provide them within the time frame provided by the law. If I may just take exception, museum.
No, I don't want to offer you exception.
No,
want
I
to
mean
focus
the-
on this particular.
I am.
point. Okay.
The museum representatives keep saying that I've imposed this date and this limitation. I haven't. The law has. The law has.
Well, but the law states a response within a certain period of time, and under 6725, for either voluminous records or records that have to be gotten from a remote facility or have to be researched, they can invoke an agreed extension for incremental or on a rolling basis as the information arises, and that it should not be withheld. So it should be released as soon as they get it, essentially. That is the purpose of the IDR. That is the leeway that is given by giving a privilege to the public for an immediate response. You have to give the city some time to kind of recover from the immediacy and kind of get its act together to pull everything together. So I'm just, my question more is this a violation of not getting the documents, that there wasn't responsive documents? Was it a timeliness issue? I'm not seeing necessarily a timeliness issue here. So,
Well, I don't understand. I must be confused. They had the immediate response. They had a 10-day extension, 14, I don't care, an extension. They didn't meet it.
okay.
They provide, excuse me, just let me finish if
Yeah.
I may. They provided 11 documents, that's it. And they said, when we get around to it, as soon as reasonably possible, we'll give you the rest.
Okay.
On its face, my goodness, as a matter of common sense, that's a violation.
Okay.
I'm not expert on this statute,
Okay.
but that's what I would say. And it beggars the imagination that with regard to a person who has been at the museum for decades and whom they laud for having contributed millions, I guess tens or hundreds, I've forgotten, a lot of money over that period of time, that they've got 10 or 11 documents with regard to her stepping down in a context, please. I mean, please, let's get the ground level for just a second. The announcement of this person's leaving was put out mid-afternoon by the new, I don't know if he's 8th, 9th, or 10th director and within a decade, saying she's gone now. Not in 10 days, not in a month, not in a year. She's toast today. This is a woman who gave millions of dollars over many years. Now, wouldn't this, all I'm suggesting, sir, or gentlemen, wouldn't this arouse your suspicion? Have you seen anything in the society pages about a huge party for this woman? What happened here? It's the end of 20 years or whatever it is of service. There must be a context. Then they can't satisfy their obligation, legal obligation, by giving me 11 documents, and nor can they fall back on this difference between COFAM and the rest of it. You know, look at this. They are going to great lengths to skirt this law, and I must be plain spoken about it. She's signing her material now, the representative is, on behalf of FAMSF, not the entire place. And they are putting out special warnings and bulletins, which I have seen, to their, or information, to their board saying, remember the Public Records Act and Freedom of Information and so on with regard to your dealings. You know, folks, just as to be plain spoken, what's happening here? It can't be 10 or 11 quasi-public documents which they've stamped private.
Mr. Smith, it may or may not. I mean, I agree with you. It kind of seems odd, but
Well, why is it difficult to find out what the information is that they have in hand? It can't be that hard.
it may or it may not be. I agree it shouldn't be. But, you know, I think what Member Wolf has said is, that the time, we have certain remedies or actions we can take here. In fact, we can't take it. It'll go to the full task force. Okay, it's a public document. There's jurisdiction.
I'm just figuring out, to make sure that we have enough clarity to be able to tell
Right.
the task force.
Right.
What
So,
is.
You know, I don't really see a timeliness issue either. I mean, I get it. They should produce something within 10 or 14 days, but if they have to check and see, and they're trying, and they're whether you think it's in good faith or not, I don't know. I mean, your experience in the past, I think, understandably makes you a little skeptical with how they're producing
Well,
things.
I'm
But-
confused. Maybe you can help me. Don't they have an obligation to provide the information within the time set by the statute?
Well, if it's onerous, or like Mr. Wolf said, where they have to, go with other agencies to get information or clear stuff with attorneys, it can take longer than 10 to 14 days.
They're not saying it's onerous. They're not saying they're going to other agencies. They're just saying we'll give it to you when we get around to it, essentially.
Right. Did you get any documents within the 10-day or
No.
14-day time
No.
period? You didn't get. Okay.
No, not even these 10 or 11 that
When did those come?
I don't remember.
A
sir.
week after, or 2 weeks after, a month?
I don't want to misspeak.
okay.
Okay.
I don't know. I can't remember. It was after the time frame.
Okay.
And may I just remind you, Mr. Wolf, in the terms of this issue that you raised happily again tonight, that remember they're using the same computer system. They're sharing the same information. This isn't a separate entity. We've been over
We've
this.
been over it, yeah.
I just wanted to remind you.
Thanks.
But look at the circumstances here. Grand Dame steps down, and they've got 10 documents on this and nothing else.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Smith.
I have nothing else. Ready for a motion?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, it's kind of getting at the thing with the last task force meeting where, you've got potentially some outstanding documents. But I think the question is whether or not there was for Mr. Smith, it sounds like, did they produce documents within the agreed, the 14-day extension? I do agree that it's a 10-day extension, but I think they can agree to 14, which is what they did. And so I don't know that when it gets to the task force, whether that distinction in this case makes a difference. But the fact that they didn't get the documents within that 14 days, that it is a small universe, I mean, I think there's something for the task force to chew on. I do think that there's jurisdiction, and I think that the task force has enough at this point to make a determination on the complaint, understanding the complaint to be production within that agreed upon window of time. And so, I mean, I
also think there is a timeliness issue to the production. I mean, I think
Yeah.
they need to show that this was difficult or we couldn't get done, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, the requirement, whether it was 10 days or even an agreed 14 days, that nothing was produced within that time it's more, it's timeliness,
Right.
it's, not responsive. And then upon the requester's prodding, gets a response that there is no future date that he can count on to receive the documents. So that's kind of, for me, the crux of the issue, that we could brief the task force. That's what we've learned today.
Do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, make a motion,
Wanna
find
put-
jurisdiction and refer to the task force.
Yeah, and that the documents are public.
Oh, sure, yes.
Yeah, Wolf, I second it.
Any public comment on the motion? Seeing none?
No, wait for the vote.
Oh. Please vote.
Member Kate?
Aye.
Member Kate, aye. Member Wolf?
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. Chair Martin?
Aye.
Chair Martin, aye. The motion passes.
Thank you. I think that's it for that one.
There's one more.
Are you getting the thumb drives that are being sent to me? I asked that the public have access.
Yeah, I have the thumb drives that she
Thank you.
sent.
Mr. Smith, thank you for appearing today. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Ms. Powers, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time. And what was your name again? Megan Bourne. Megan Bourne, thank you. Thank you. All right. So next item. Been waiting patiently.
Item number 7, file number 19068, complaint filed by Sophia Deonda against the Human Services Agency for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6721 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and/or complete manner.
All right, so is the complainant, Ms. Deonda here?
She also received notice along with the respondent.
Oh, so Ms. Deanda is not here?
I don't see her.
Sophie Deonda? No? Respondents here? Yes. Please, who is here?
Ken Pang.
Okay, and? And? Okay. Oh, and? And? Thank you. So a complainant does not appear to be here. I think all three of us probably looked at the complaint. What do you guys propose we do with the complainant not here? It's an interesting issue, but if she's not here.
We continue to the call of the chair?
Well, we could just, we can do that.
And no response or no,
No, everybody got the notices. Everybody got the notice of
Right.
appearance. Everybody got the agenda packet, the link to the agenda packet. Other than you, Chair Martin, the only other person who had trouble with the link was the library, and I sent them a new link and it was
Okay.
posted.
Okay. So continue to the call of chair.
Yeah, sure.
Fine. Yeah.
motion to continue and to thank everyone for showing up.
No kidding.
strong
Thank you very
contingent.
much. I'm sorry, complainant's not here.
All right, well, let's get a motion.
But,
I'm
yeah.
sorry to do this.
I guess we can make the thanks.
Can we ask that this be, does it have to be continued? I mean, can we resolve this
We-
now?
We usually give the requester the benefit of one additional contact before we table it and close it. And then advise them or inform them that they could reopen the case at a later date,
Sorry, go ahead, Mr.
Oh,
if they so choose. That's the way we operate.
Well, in this case, we feel like we have been responsive and
All right, I'm going to, because there's so much conversation, can you come up to the microphone, please? We'll be happy to hear you on,
There's just recording stuff in here, so we
Yeah.
have to.
So yes, just because the department, HSA, we feel like we have been responsive and that we do not have documents to produce, that if Ms. Deonda wanted to resubmit another request, if we could close this item for today, and if Ms. Deonda wanted to submit another request, we'd be happy to respond to that request. But at this point in time, we have 5 of us here to resolve this issue today and would feel that we would like to resolve it today.
And I really appreciate all 5 of you coming. It's a very difficult position to be in, and you took the time out of the afternoon to be here, and that does not go unnoticed. And you sat patiently to be heard. The issue is that this really is a due process mechanism. And if the complainant comes and says, well, I didn't get notice, or has some other valid, quasi-valid reason or valid reason, it becomes a little problematic. So believe me, I really appreciate that you're here along with the 4 others. It means a lot to participate. And I know it's time, and it's 7 o'clock in the evening. But it's a more efficient to continue and table. And I think just to continue, then dispose of it without any input from the complainant.
Would it be possible to be first on the list when we come back the next time on the
I
continuance?
think so, yeah.
I
think so.
can make sure of that.
Yeah.
The other thing is this committee doesn't have the authority to close a case.
Okay.
Only the task force does. The committee makes recommendations to the task force, but the task force ultimately makes those decisions. What we can do here is we can continue items, and then we have a kind of a policy as part of our procedure on what happens if there's no response. And then we just follow that, it's a kind of a regular procedure, so everybody's treated equally.
Okay, all right.
So I actually just had a question. So what happens, I guess, if the committee can't basically close a complaint for failure to prosecute? Say there's another, whether it's this case or another one where maybe there's 2 or 3, kind of failure to show up. How does that work with closing the complaint? Do we have to move it to the task force, or what is the process?
Cheryl will let me know that these folks have not shown up for she provides me regular reports about that. And then I'll say, okay, well, let's put these on the agenda, and we'll have the task force determine how to dispense with it.
Potentially, though, opening up, because we would then put everyone on notice, and they would show up at the task force, potentially.
That's right.
And then they could talk.
That's right. But we have changed our procedures to make requirements. It's bounced back and forth. We at first had you had to show up for the complaint committee, but you didn't have to show up for the main task force. And then we flipped it around because there was some problems with not having enough information at the task force level that you wanted to have those parties at. So we said, okay, you didn't have to show up for the complaint process because it was just focusing on whether it was documents were public and whether it was in jurisdiction. And then then they had to show up for the task force. Now they show up to the task force, there's not enough information, and we end up with a 2-hour case. So then we decided go back to the way we had things at the beginning, where people have to show up for both. And we know it's onerous and everything, but it helps due process to make sure that things don't constantly get continued. So then we had this issue where people didn't show up, and we had to deal with that. And then so we've created somewhat not punitive, but a consequential procedure when parties don't show. And it just applies to everybody equally. And if for whatever reason, they didn't make it, and usually we let it go for a second time. And if they don't show up the second time, then we usually close the case. Cheryl will inform that usually it's the complainant, that they have, they could appeal. We have for reconsideration within 60 days of our decision to close it, or they could refile.
Is there, and right, well then, is there any, other than the potential danger, I suppose, of the task force not thinking there's enough in the record to make a determination, is there any danger or any problem with, absent the complainant being here, moving this to the task force as is, that way, and then allowing at the task force level, maybe, I don't know, however many chances we want to give, that way we can get it out of the complaint committee process and to the task force, that way we don't have to run the risk of complaint committee, continue it, complaint committee again, failure to show up, getting it to the task force, and then maybe they show up, and then there's kicking it back to the complaint committee, and we're into Christmas.
So I hear you. So there are a couple of scenarios on that. One is that the complainant can request that it not go through committee. They want to hear both the jurisdiction and the case itself by the task force members first, and they have to give a compelling reason for that. And sometimes there's some issues around jurisdiction. The second scenario is that, as you're suggesting, it comes forward to the task force. If the task force decides that it wants to hear the case anyway, and the complainant or the missing party does appear, the problem is then how much time you're going to give that case. Because now you've got to hear the jurisdiction. You've got to hear testimony or information that was not produced here. So the purpose is to try to ferret out all the sticky wickets that are in the collection of, or let's call it discovery, in a task force meeting. So that means that when I see one of those, that means I have to then say, okay, we're not going to do 5 cases tonight, we're going to do 4. And so I have to monitor that when creating the agenda. So in our rules, that we have, we've given the administrator some authority to close files. And if there was unresponsive communication attempts, to have somebody, like if we continue it, and then our administrator tries to contact the person, cannot contact the person, then the administrator has the authority to close the file at that point.
We've also had matters that have been heard at committee level, and then the complainant doesn't show up for the task force.
Right.
Then we
Right.
notify them that the complaint has been tabled. If they wish to reopen, they have 60 days. Issue as well.
What level of interaction have you had with the complainant? Have they responded at all? I mean, I know
For this particular hearing,
I know for this particular hearing, I guess that you haven't heard anything.
I have not heard anything from Ms. Deonda that she would not be available, as well as I did not hear anything from Mr. Rhodes that he wouldn't be available for the first hearing. Everybody got notice of appearance. Everybody was sent the link to the agenda, and this was all done within a 3-week
Right.
period, so they had
And what was
time
the
to tell me.
Yeah, what was the last you heard from Ms. Deanda?
I probably heard from her like 3.5 weeks ago that she wanted to prepare this case.
Okay.
And I know she was upset because HUD monies were involved and that sort of thing. So
So we
I
give.
never got notification that she wasn't available.
Yeah, and we give deference to the requester because that's what this process is for. It's for the public. So we usually give deference to them because of, people's situations.
Sometimes they're emergencies.
Sometimes there are,
Right.
and there are other extenuating circumstances we've had to deal with over just this year alone, actually, that forced continuances. So generally we give the first one kind of gratis, and at least at this level, so that way, this probably will get agendized not in August, but probably September.
Probably September.
So there'll be, 2 months.
But
to-
but the compliance and complaint committee agendas for August are still in draft mode. He has not received for the August.
Okay.
It's okay.
Right, so there'll be at least another, 20 days for Ms. Deanda to appear, and contact Cheryl. And if we don't hear from her then,
In the beginning, I received a number of emails from Ms. Deonda
Right.
about
Right.
this and another issue, one of which we closed because we weren't hearing from her. She wasn't responding to my questions. But this one, I was under the full impression that it would go forward.
Yeah.
Because she had been contacting me.
Okay. So I empathize with, you got to sit through our 20 minutes talking about that. But I'm sorry, it's going to get continued. I've been in your spot. It's not fun. I get it. We can definitely put you one on the next
The
one,
very latest, it would be September.
and you will be the first item.
Yeah, you'll be the first item.
I
I've
think
made a
that's-
are we
note.
talking about complaint committee or
Yeah,
the task force?
complaint committee.
Okay.
Okay, because I appreciate, I really appreciate it. And I know it's no fun to sit through all that exciting former items, but, okay.
All right, thank you for
Thank
your
you very much.
patience.
So
Did
I
we
move-
do our motion?
No.
Yeah, move to continue,
Oh.
or you want to make a motion also?
Yeah, so I'll move to continue the item to the next schedule. I'll leave it at the, actually, I'll leave it at the call of the complaint committee chair. Continue this item.
All right. Any public comment?
Thank you. Not substantive, we can take this by acclamation.
All right. Everyone agree?
No
All right,
objection.
No objections? Taken by acclamation. All right, next item.
Item number 8, adjournment.
Oh, good.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We adjourned.